That's great. Thanks so much for the introduction, Tammy. I am also excited to be here today. As Tammy said, yes, today we're going to be presenting round 3 of Improve Your Marketing. A few weeks ago, we had our intro session where we did sort of a 30,000 foot flyover, just to give you an overview and explain the concept. Today, we're going to talk about 5 separate strategies that I've selected that are supposed to help to nurture your customers. But before we do so, I actually do just want to give a little 5-minute overview of Improve Your Marketing. We're going to cut it a little shorter than we did in the intro session, but I do appreciate that maybe some of you weren't able to attend the introduction. So we're just going to start with a 5-minute flyover of Improve Your Marketing, explain what it is, why we built it, what it's all about, and then we're going to dive into actual use cases that we think really help you nurture your customers. All right. So I've just basically dived right in here. This is our Improve Your Marketing website. The URL is really easy to remember, Improveyour.marketing. And what it is, essentially, it's a constant work in progress. We're constantly developing it and adding new features. It started off as a digital marketing playbook, so really just a collection of 100 tactics that we think are useful to achieve different goals. And what you see here is essentially the first screen that you get to after you log in and create an account. And it all starts with selecting one of these strategic goals, all in line with sort of your typical digital marketing efforts. And this really revolves around customer stages. So we have acquire, which is something we presented 2 weeks ago. That's also available as a webinar on demand. How do we acquire new customers? Great strategies for customer acquisition. Today, we're going to be talking about nurturing those customers. So essentially anything we can do to move them through the customer journey, to get them to purchase ultimately. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing another one on growing your customer base. And then finally, we're also going to be doing a series on retention. But today, we're going to be focusing on nurture strategies. These are the strategies that our system has available as nurture. You can see some that I've already pre-selected there. And those are the ones we're going to talk about today. But basically, the process is you go in here, you select whatever goal and priority is most important to you: customer acquisition, nurturing, growing, retaining. You can then select individual tactics within here by kind of clicking on that heart. We can also dive into an individual tactic just by clicking on it, and that will show you a little bit more information on that specific tactic. What does it mean? How can it be implemented? Any expert tips if they are available. And then after we've selected those tactics, we move on to the next step, which is prioritization. So that really gives us the ability to run a little estimate here on, I like to call it value or bang for buck, really. How much effort, how much investment do I need to put in, and how much value do I get out of it? And so that's going to determine somewhat the low-hanging fruits that you have available to use for your marketing efforts. And so that's something that I think always steers my prioritization, but ultimately, really, these should align with your strategic priorities from a business perspective. So here you just get a little bit of an ability to fine-tune that. And then once you've completed that, we can just go to the finished marketing plan, which is a shareable document. It's a link that you can send to your colleagues. Basically puts together a strategy plan here of all the different tactics. And something that we've recently added that I haven't really presented yet, but something we're going to be fleshing out more, is our ability to add more detailed project plans to that. So within this product review example, we're just going to dive in here and we can actually add individual project streams and create sort of a strategy blueprint. So that's a much more fleshed out project plan that is supposed to help us communicate all these things. It's supposed to help keep everybody aligned, figure out whether we're focusing on acquisition, nurture, growth, or retention, then also the kind of customer base that we have here. And so this is really the detail view that we're going to keep enhancing. So this is a great place, I think, for clients, customers, prospects to basically go in and develop their own strategy to put this together as a project plan. It's a free resource that you're able to use. It's a great tool, I think, for partners to really become focused on customer requirements, and it's a great tool for vendors to really figure out sort of what they do well and how they can position these benefits to their customers. So I kind of mentioned some of these things here, but why did we do this? Ultimately, what was the goal behind all of it? First of all, we wanted a more tangible approach to marketing projects, so something that just provides a framework and a documentation. we wanted to really allow anybody starting a marketing project to focus on ROI and underlying strategy. So really starting with the strategy and vision, then moving to available features. What features do we need to implement that strategy and vision? Moving even further to instructions and setup. So what do people actually have to do to get it up and running? And then even from the outset, defining an approach to analytics and insights so that we can all agree as to what the success criteria are in a project, what KPIs are important to us in terms of measurement and achieving company goals, and then taking those insights and pouring them back into strategy vision so we can get smarter every time around. Ultimately, it results in more agile projects and sort of avoids those overblown, cumbersome implementations, and provides a transparent, simple communication framework all the way from C-level down to the people actually implementing the projects, your digital marketers. So that's the goal behind it all. That's why we built this. Hopefully you find it to be a valuable resource. Like I said earlier, go ahead, check out the website. You can log in, create an account, and we'd love to hear your feedback on it. So with that said, what we're going to do next is we're going to dive into actual use cases that you can use to nurture your customers. So maybe just a little bit of an intro. I mentioned again some of it earlier, but what do we mean by nurture? To me, nurturing your customers is everything that happens in between the first and the last touch point. So the first touch point, you need to generate some initial interest. Your customer is going to come to your website. Maybe they're going to click on an email or download your app or do something like that. But then you want them to go further, right? You want them to complete their order. You want them to complete a second order. And you really want to help them make those decisions. And so nurture is really everything that comes in between. And so what does that involve sort of from a, what do we do to customers? Really, I think this stage is all about information and trust, and we're gonna touch on those points a few more times during this presentation, but really it's about recommending things, providing suggestions, providing advice. It could be providing, an instructional video on a certain product that somebody's looked at. It could be showing them ratings and reviews to build trust in your brand or that particular product and alleviate concerns. And we'll touch on that in a little bit more detail shortly. But yeah, it's basically anything you can do to nurture them down the conversion path. And maybe just one more note, this is just a selection of 5 strategies. I think, as you saw earlier, we have far more in the Improve Your Marketing platform. So this is just a choice of some of my favorites. You may have different favorites. There may be different ones that are relevant to your business. So this is just a hand-picked sample of some of the things that we can do to nurture your customers, but by no means an exclusive list. All right, so let's dive into some details here and start looking at the individual use cases that I've picked out. So the first strategy that I've selected here, which I think really helps nurture your customers, is the basket builder, which ultimately is sort of a convenience feature that makes it really easy for us to suggest items that go well together in a basket and then recommend those to the consumer. It's also a very convenient way for the visitor himself or herself to easily build a basket with sort of minimal effort and the lowest amount of clicks. And so this is a convenience feature that helps me, make sure that I've got all of the accessories, all of the attachments. If I'm buying a lamp, maybe there's an extra lampshade that goes with it. Maybe I need a plug or a power strip or something like that. And so making sure that you add complementary products in a basket builder sequence should definitely be the primary focus. Like I said, there's lots of things that we can do here to recommend the products that we want to sell. But it's really, really important, I think, to focus with the primary strategy on making sure that these products are absolutely relevant and complementary. Otherwise, it's just going to seem like some annoying upsell. And that's not something that you want to put the customer through. So in our last webinar, we focused on customer acquisition strategies, and I don't think we specifically talked about this one, but I think in this case, this is a good example of acquisition and nurturing going sort of hand in hand and being really 2 sides of the same coin. So one very effective strategy to generate new customers and to acquire new prospects to your website is to have a group of traffic generator products that you really promote out there in the online world. So that could be paid ads on social media or paid search, or maybe you've got some other blog posts or affiliates, really promoting some product that's super popular right now. It's kind of a hot hit product. You're probably not making a lot of margin on it. You're really trying to offer an attractive price point because the goal of this product is to get people to come to your website. Now, just as we have those traffic generator products that bring customers to your site, it's also, I think, really important and relevant to have a group of basket builder products that complements those traffic generator products, because those basket builder products are going to be focused on something different. Primarily, they're going to be focused on increasing basket value by providing relevant suggestions. But they also give you, as the owner of the web shop, a really, really powerful way to cross and upsell your visitors to the products that you really want to promote. And so, like I said, the customer relevance of this is absolutely key and should be paramount. But by having this comfort feature available to your customers and prospects, you also get a really the ability to take an active role in making suggestions, selling products that are maybe harder to sell, and also ensuring that you're increasing overall basket value and relevance and convenience for the customer. So I think basket builders are a great tool to do exactly that, nurture your customers. Okay, so let's move on to the next strategy here. And what we're going to be talking about is product reviews. Product reviews, or really any sort of reviews, service reviews, company reviews, are all about building trust. So I think, yeah, any of that information is a really great way to nurture your customers. And beyond trust, there's actually several other things that the product reviews can do. So I think it's a really great way to nurture customers because you're essentially also doing several things at once. So first of all, product reviews provide information on the experiences of other customers and the experiences that they've had with your company. And so those can be really, really effective at speeding up new customers' buying cycles. And that's sort of on two sides of the psychological equation, really. Well, almost three sides. On the one side, when you're looking at positive reviews, it's great to have that social proof that you get from other customers reviewing that product. You get to experience how they feel about their purchase, how they feel about being a customer. Are they happy? Are they satisfied? Are they still getting value from that product? So that social proof in and of itself is a little bit of peer pressure as well to say, oh, well, great, there's other people enjoying it, so I should be part of that group. In addition, it gives you affirmation on the positive things that you already feel and think about that product, and maybe even give you more information and highlight positive aspects that you hadn't thought of before. So that really pushes people towards converting. And then vice versa on the negative side, before I buy a product, and the more expensive it gets, the more I probably feel this, I've got this concern and worry about making a bad decision, about buying something that maybe is not fit for purpose. And maybe I have a very specific fear or concern about that product. Let's say I'm buying a rain jacket that I want to use on my next hiking trip, but it's maybe not the most expensive one. So I'm a little bit concerned if it's actually going to be waterproof enough to withstand a heavy rain. And so instead of just trusting the manufacturer to tell me how waterproof it is, I can actually go to the reviews, I can filter them by negative reviews, and I can see, has anybody experienced this concern? If there are lots of negative reviews saying it wasn't waterproof and it didn't hold up on my hike, then that's probably something that affirms my fear. But if I don't see any of those negative reviews reference that problem, that's going to allow me to tuck that fear away, move on, sort of overcome my concern, and go ahead and purchase that product. So really, I think reviews can be a really effective way to nurture your customers and get them to make faster and easier buying decisions. And just a couple of statistics here to back this up. So according to my research, 85% of millennials, and that's just that one demographic, but it's pretty common across demographics, but 85% of millennials say reviews influence their purchasing choice. And over 80% of all customers look at customer reviews with as much trust as they would a personal recommendation. Now, honestly, I don't know if I go that far. If a friend recommends something to me, that always carries a lot of weight. But I think there's a lot of great platforms out there too that do a really, really good job at making sure that these are actually authentic reviews and ensuring that only real customers get the chance to leave a review on a particular product that they bought. And so there's lots of, like I said, great solutions out there. I think it's really important to probably choose one of those, or at the very least to ensure that your ratings are reputable, that they're not filtered, that they're authentic and transparent, because that's what generates the trust in your brand, is that transparency. Also the willingness to have negative reviews up there. Make sure you comment on them, make sure that you address how you approach that from a service perspective. So I think all of those are great reasons to implement reviews, but there are many, many more that go beyond nurturing. One of the top things that review companies usually pitch and sell is the amount of user-generated content that it produces, and therefore relevance, which has a significant impact on your Google ranking as well, and your SEO results, just by having that sort of new daily user-generated content. So reviews, I think, all around are a great way, not just to nurture your customers, but to build trust in your brand, and to have a lot of other positive impacts on the performance of your website as a whole and your brand. Okay, so let's move on to the next piece. And here we're going to be talking about conversion attribution. Now, conversion attribution, I think, is a strategy, again, that's not exclusive to nurture. I think it's really, really important to get your nurture right, but really it's more of a prerequisite for making good decisions. And so really it's all about understanding how customers convert and how to use your different channels in order to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. So what you see here, and there's probably not enough detail on the slide I'm showing you, is essentially customer journey and different channels that you see in this type of dashboard. So within each channel, we've separated the touch points to essentially indicate, are these really good at generating initial interest? That's the blue bars there. The green line would be anything that comes in between that initial interest and the conversion. So that's the nurturing part. And then the red is conversion touch points. So those touch points with a lot of red bar are very good at pushing people over the line to generate that final conversion. And so I think this is really going to help you figure out how to nurture your customers. And honestly, I think there's still so much insight that most companies can benefit from. I think we always talk a really good game about being data-driven, but in my experience, most organizations, including a lot of the companies that I've worked for, still have a long way to go at actually putting that data-driven principle into action. So it's just having this data, also taking advantage of a multi-touch attribution model, because otherwise, you're just ignoring sort of everything that happens between the first or the last touch point. And I think the key point here is, just because a given touch point isn't immediately responsible for conversion, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any value. If that statement were in fact true, then that would mean that we don't really need to do anything other than throw a paid ad out there on Facebook and wait to get the conversion, right? But of course, we all know that it's not that simple. Almost every single product that is sold today, unless you're selling 25-cent widgets on Amazon or something like that, is going to go through a multi-step process, usually with multiple touch points, multiple channels and devices. So these customers are going to get emails, they're going to go to your website, they're going to look at different sources of information before they ultimately purchase. These customer journeys, they can be 7 days, they can be 14 days, sometimes they're 30, 60, 90 days, depending on what you sell. And so having a complete understanding of how all of these different touch points stack up, I think is absolutely key. So before I move on from conversion attribution, I kind of want to talk about maybe a couple of things that you can do, some tangible examples to nurture your customers. And I think probably the most popular channel, or the best channel to do that with, is email, and to do so in a very personalized way. Of course, nurturing is something that takes into account all of the different touch points and experiences that the customer has had. And email, I think, is a great way of transmitting that content, because you can transmit a lot more information than you could with a paid ad, for example. And so that's a great idea to take somebody who maybe has shown initial interest in the product, maybe he's been to your website once or twice, looked at the same product, maybe looked at some of the reviews or something like that. And once you sort of mark them as somebody that has a significant interest, to really start nurturing them with additional content. And so that would be a rich email with maybe an instructional video, or some ratings and reviews, or some other information on the product, or information on how it stacks up against the competitors, some consumer report article, or what have you. So I think that would be a great way of nurturing your customers by email. But that said, there are of course many other ways that you can do it, and a lot of that's going to be dependent on your brand and your type of customers and where they spend time. Be it social media, or are they spending a lot of time on publisher sites. It could be paid search as well, where you're presenting specific landing pages to users that enter certain keywords who have also been to your site already, and those landing pages then sort of pick up from what they did last in their customer journey and present them with information that's relevant and pushing them to your next step. But yeah, figuring out your channel mix and ultimately understanding which channels are effective at nurturing your customers, I think it is that prerequisite. It's really the first important step. And so before we start getting busy on just running random campaigns, we need to make sure that we have all the data, we have the understanding of what works right now, and the data indications really of what we can improve. So I think having a good understanding of how your conversion is attributed and how your channels are used in the customer journey is absolutely key. All right, I think we're already going to get to our last tactic here. And our last tactic is our unified customer profile. Or you know what? I don't think it's the last one. It might be the second to last. We'll see when we get through the slide deck. But what we're going to talk about here is essentially another piece of this puzzle. Unified customer profile, I think, is absolutely key to being able to do unified marketing. And when it comes to nurturing your customers, that is more important than almost in any other step. So a unified customer profile just means that everything that your customer has done, whether they've responded to an email, gone to your website, whether they've received an SMS or clicked on a paid ad on an affiliate or a social network, but everything that they've done in terms of interacting with your brand is recorded against a single customer ID. So we basically just have date and timestamps. When did somebody do something? What channel did they do it on? And what was the specific interaction that we had? And having this unified customer profile is going to be really key to the nurture process, because if you don't have it, really you're ignoring a really important part of the picture. Nurturing can go really wrong when you're sending a customer stuff that's not relevant. If a customer's already engaged with that content and you're sending it to them again, or if you're sending customers coupons for products that they've already purchased, these things can really, really backfire in terms of the customer experience. So having a unified customer profile to understand all of the different touch points is just going to give you a complete picture. Otherwise, you're still stuck in all of those single channel silos. And so, yeah, I think if you want to do effective cross-channel marketing and personalization and thereby nurture, you absolutely need a unified customer profile. Because it's the timing and sophistication of these kinds of initiatives that really are going to pay the biggest dividends. If you can anticipate needs and anticipate sort of the questions that they have and then provide them with answers at just the right time, that's what really builds that trust and sort of generates that uptick. If you miss the boat on that and you send them a message that's not relevant, it has a tendency to backfire. So maybe just some examples of those things would be figuring out things like the right channel and timing to re-engage users on that have viewed a specific product on your website. It may also be that you find that depending on the price, the timing of that changes. So more expensive products maybe have a longer buying cycle, and so you want to wait a little longer before blasting information at a person, whereas if they're lower end products, you probably want to get on it pretty quickly before they find an alternative and purchase it somewhere else. Another cool thing that we recently worked on was actually a project with one of our clients where we developed a geofencing feature that sent push messages to people with special deals on meals once they got close enough to the restaurant. So as a restaurant conglomerate group. And one of the things they did to personalize it is they took into account whether somebody had the app, which was of course necessary for that push notification. They would then look to see if that person had used the app to order before, and also see if that person had logged into the website and maybe placed an order there. And if they had, then it would preload and pre-populate the options that they'd previously chosen as sort of preferences. So it's kind of like that basket builder example that we had in the beginning. You inform somebody of a special offering. You then also make it really easy for them to sort of go to the next step, place an order. You're showing them that you understand them by inserting relevant content into there. So these are the meals that they like, and these are the kind of favorites. And yeah, so there's lots of different things that you can do. And I think the more user activity you can structure and put into a cadence together across different channels, the more impressive it is to your customer. And so recognizing all of these channels and having all of that in one database, again, to me is a complete prerequisite for being able to do this personalization well, but probably more important for the nurture step than anything else. And I did remember this was slide number 4. I do have a 5th point here that really goes very well hand in hand with unified customer profile, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's the cross-channel campaign execution. Being able to execute and orchestrate cross-channel marketing campaigns from that unified customer profile really is just as important as having that profile in the first place. And I'm probably a little bit biased here, but you know, I think having the customer profile to avoid the data silos is certainly the most important prerequisite. I think you can probably do a lot of stuff these days with things like APIs and data streams and even, you know, JavaScript customizations on a website, or things like cookie exchanges and handshakes. And so orchestrating cross-channel campaigns, I think across a divergent architecture is certainly possible, but I think it has a lot of disadvantages. And like I said, you know, I'm somewhat biased here, being a longtime employee at Mapp. But to me, it's not just the execution part. So in addition to having to sort of build a connection and a trigger from the database to all the execution channels, you've also got to make sure that you reintegrate all of the feedback data that you get from each of those marketing channels. And if they're all in separate tools, those are all going to be siloed. So did people open their emails? Did they click on links? Did they go back to your website? Did they interact with the push messages? Have they seen a paid ad? If you're managing those in 5 different systems, you're going to have to make sure that that feedback gets back to the original database, that it's all integrated, it's all structured the right way. And quite frankly, everyone that I've ever talked to who has managed projects like this has attested to me how complex and how much effort it takes to maintain this ultimately. And so I think, you know, while it's probably possible to do this in a very divergent architecture as well, you can save yourself a ton of effort and headaches by having both a centralized database with a unified customer profile, but also native solutions to action that data and execute it across at least all of the digital channels, like email, mobile, social, and paid media. But you know, you could also integrate any sort of other stuff as well. So we've got customers integrate things like shipping data, who got a package, when did they get it, was it late, was it damaged? And you know, that may be an important filter to have to be able to personalize future campaigns. Other things include call center data or in-store data, you know, coupons redeemed with QR codes, those sorts of things. So the more of these channels you have integrated and the more you have sort of at your disposal, the more effective your cross-channel your customers towards that ultimate conversion goal. All right, so those were the 5 strategies that I've chosen today. Like I said, there are many, many more. And yeah, we'd like to invite you, as I did in the beginning, to join our digital marketing community and get the best practices that we have posted here. By now, it's actually totally turned into an interactive piece. So we submitted 100 initial tactics. I know there are plenty of agencies and partners that have already started submitting their own. So this is just something that's going to grow. But this is our call to action. Please get involved. Go to the website, sign up for an account. It's completely free. Become part of the community. We're happy to take your honest feedback as well, because we're constantly looking at improving this. But if you are in any sort of marketing related role, we're pretty confident that having a look at this and logging in and starting to put together project plans and coming up with ideas is going to be of great value to you. So please go check it out. Another little act of shameless self-promotion here. We are going to be doing this again in 2 weeks' time, and we're going to be focusing on the next stage of customer growth, and that is how to grow your customer base. So rather than focusing on the nurture part, we're going to be focusing on the next stage. How can we do things like increase order value? How can we get people to order a second time? And how can we make sort of those people that we've already acquired and nurtured more successful and turn them into more valuable customers? And you can register for that today as part of our Midsummer webinar series. It's called Grow Your Customer Base, Wednesday, October 14th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So please sign up there. And then last but not least, I'd also like to point out our recent customer survey. So it says customer survey. I don't think that's 100% accurate. Essentially, we're looking for people that already have some experience using Mapp. So whether you're a consultant, whether you're a user on the client side, whether you're somebody that worked for Mapp in the past, anybody I think that has any actual experience working with our Mapp cloud, we would love for you to fill out our customer survey, give us some honest feedback on our solution, tell us where we can improve and make the solution better and more relevant for you. And as a thank you, we're going to send a $50 voucher to you to donate to a charity of your choice. So if you'd like to give feedback and you just want to be heard, that's great. But if you also want to benefit from our philanthropic offer here to give you the chance to donate something to a charity of your choice, then please sign up. Please go ahead and leave your reviews. And yeah, that is all I have today. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this as usual. I hope there was some value in some of these suggestions. If you didn't like the particular tactics, like I said, go to Improve Your Marketing, check it out, send us your feedback, but hopefully there was some value in here for you as well to teach you about our Improve Your Marketing portal and to also give you ideas on how to effectively nurture your customers towards the ultimate goal of conversion. So thanks very much for your time, everyone. As Tammy said, there's a couple of handouts in here that you can download that we'll also be sending out. I think we're also recording this, so you should get a link to that. And hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next part on how to grow your customers. Thanks again.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.